An exclusive story in our weekly briefing. We've heard a lot about bots this past year and how they were used to manipulate social media narratives in the U.S. election. And now it looks as though bots have landed in Canada.
The people of this province are ready for change. They want Kathleen Wynne out, and to Kathleen Wynne, I say your days as Premier are numbered. Thank you.
It all happened as Doug Ford campaigned for the leadership of the Ontario Progressive Conservatives. Two Canadian professors revealed exclusively to us they've uncovered 20 suspicious accounts that acted a lot like bots. So what's a bot? Well, it's an online account created by a real person, made to look real, but then it's automated and run by artificial intelligence or algorithms. So what's the appeal for a political campaign? Well, bots spread narratives that can then be retweeted by tens, then hundreds, even thousands until the narrative gets traction on social media. If it looks like a pyramid scheme, it kind of is. This particular hashtag, Crooked Christine, was designed to attack one of the Ontario PC's main candidates, Christine Elliott. And according to BuzzFeed, it was amplified by 4 bots during the leadership campaign. And now we can add exclusive details to this. Fenwick McKelvey of Concordia University and Elizabeth Dubois at the University of Ottawa analyzed nearly 3,000 Twitter accounts using the main Ontario PC hashtags during the leadership campaign. What they find? Well, they identified at least 20 that looked suspicious according to their metrics. 2 of these supported Christine Elliott, 13 pushed Doug Ford's agenda. And those are pretty much all anti-Elliott and, of course, anti-Kathleen Wynne, like this one, for example. So the bots looked suspicious to the profs because many were created within minutes of each other, plus the number of times they tweeted seemed almost inhuman. Also, many have fake avatars. Like, we checked this one out. This one claims to be David Homer, but he's got the face of British chef Jamie Oliver. The professors can't say definitively that these tweets were generated by machines, but they do say, whether human or not, they suspect that these accounts are engaged in what is called media manipulation, the spread of false or misleading information. It's unclear who created the bots. They could have been created by the campaigns or just a very engaged supporter. We asked the Doug Ford team if they have used bots, but they haven't responded. So, trying to figure out what all this means, Jesse Hirsch is back with us now. He's CBC tech commentator and a futurist. So 20 bots, like, why does that matter?
Well, it's a pilot project.
If they are bots, why does that matter?
Well, I think it undermines the integrity of the electoral process. If all of a sudden we're questioning who's human and who's automated, on the one hand, it allows for, say, things like Crooked Christine to impact the outcome because people start thinking, oh, maybe the other candidate is tainted. But it also then allows us to marginalize real human voices by just saying they're bots. So it really calls into question both what people are saying and the context in which they're saying it.
So, I mean, astroturfing has been around, amplifying, pretending that you have supporters that you don't. That's been around forever. But what's the influence here that's different, I guess, in terms of spreading a message?
What's the potential scale? Think of, say, door knocking as part of a campaign. If you could all of a sudden have thousands of robots knocking on people's doors, you'd have a greater reach. And it's the social media equivalent. That it's hard to get a lot of supporters to spontaneously support you, but it's easy to get thousands of bots to say the same thing. That might influence media coverage. That might engage in voter suppression if you're discouraging the supporters of the other candidate from supporting them. Or it might just change the way polling and the narrative around the race is fostered. So it speaks to how, again, our trust in the process, the integrity of the process is questioned.
Well, and I guess politicians are always saying, well, Ontarians or Canadians are telling me this, but are they really hearing it from real Canadians? Well,
and think of it as a kind of puppet silent majority, where all of a sudden you can create a mandate, you could create an argument that's entirely fabricated because you don't know who's a human and who's a bot. And while automated marketing is going to have a role in Canadian elections, we need rules, we need transparency to make sure that when it is used, it's not used to deceive or impact how people choose who to vote for.
So we don't know who was behind this. It could have been campaigns, it could have been individuals. It just looks impossible for a human to have done this in some of these. Is this the new way of political campaigning? I mean, there are firms that specialize in digital marketing.
Well, it's a slippery slope. If one candidate starts to use bots, then the other candidate faces pressure to use bots. And the power of automation is very difficult to resist. So it's, I think, why we need both transparency, but also greater discussion, what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. Because maybe we will agree that bots are acceptable when it comes to campaigning.
Yeah, well, are they illegal or?
It depends on the registration. It also depends on the terms of service of which platform they use. But what we do know is it's illegal for bots to vote. And I think that would be the outcome if we don't find regulations and we don't find rules to actually limit their participation in the electoral process.
Another huge headline all this weekend about voter manipulation is the story by a Canadian whistleblower, Chris Wiley. He used to work for the Federal Liberals during the Ignatieff years here. He went to work in the UK and he ended up working for Steve Bannon and Cambridge Analytica, Robert Mercer's firm, both very closely associated with the Donald Trump campaign. And now this whistleblower is saying that he, while working for Cambridge Analytica, harvested 50 million Facebook users' accounts and used them as a weaponized tool in campaigns for Cambridge Analytica. I mean, how does that all fit in? It's
tip of the iceberg. And I think the 50 million number may actually increase because of the size of the hole that they were accessed that data. We're talking about Twitter because we can identify these bots. A lot of researchers believe that this activity is at a far larger scale on Facebook and in other closed systems. I think it's why regulators are now interested, but it's also why I think we need more transparency to understand how our data is being used against us.
Well, it's quite a newsy weekend. So much to watch for and a big political season ahead. Number of parties, number of provinces, and the big one, federal one, coming too. Thanks so much, Jesse.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thank you.